Hello, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to our next session on protecting your online business from payments and ATO fraud with a reCAPTCHA enterprise. And my name is Khormaee. I'm the head of product for user protection services here at Google. And I'd like to also introduce my co-speaker, Raj.
Thanks, Sai. I'm Ramanand, the co-founder and CEO of Signified.
Well, great to have you with us, Raj. Thank you so much for joining. And to get us kicked off, I'd like to give everyone a bit of an introduction to reCAPTCHA and the history of reCAPTCHA and where we've been and where we're going. And I'm sure most folks here are familiar with at least the visual elements of reCAPTCHA, where there's the bit of squiggly text or the pictures you have to select that pop up around the internet. And those are about 10-year-old technologies now. Recently, we've really moved to a frictionless implementation that is essentially a small piece of JavaScript that sits on a site and is able to detect behavior, to detect maliciousness or fraud on your site without having the users have to decode some squiggly text or select images. And so this has been a big step forward for reCAPTCHA as a frictionless protective platform on the internet. And recently, we've added surface layer protections of mobile, that means Android and iOS, as well as WAF layer protections to the solution. So now it can really be a comprehensive solution. And that really is the goal of reCAPTCHA and reCAPTCHA Enterprise, to provide a total fraud solution that provides you and your business with frictionless security everywhere. And that means across all device types as well as all types of fraud. And so as I mentioned, all device types, that means traffic coming into the network layer with WAFs. That means integrations on mobile for web, coverage of IoT devices, really anywhere that there is something you need to protect, reCAPTCHA can be there to keep it safe. And the same is true across all use cases. And this can mean, starting at the very edge with protecting against scraping and scraping abuse, going into the account takeover protection. So once the user is on your page interacting with elements of your client code, and finally with payments, when they're ready to check out, when they're ready to interact with that payments integration, we'll be able to provide that protection as well. And all that together will really mean there won't be entry points for any adversaries to commit fraud on your site. And that really is our goal as a platform. And we've seen great success across a number of businesses. And these are just kind of four of the quick stories we have from the many across the great reCAPTCHA enterprise user base. And we have folks like, HBO Max and Adobe who are using reCAPTCHA Enterprise to protect services they operate, to ensure that people are not using account takeovers or different types of account sales to attack these two platforms. We have Etsy, that's been a great deep integration with us around all things e-commerce and retail. And it's been a very successful relationship to stop, bot traffic due to sales or online shopping payment fraud. And finally, even in the retail space, we work closely with Caribou Coffee to protect their stores of value that exist in things like gift cards or loyalty programs that, again, are critical to their user journeys, even if many of their interactions are in person. And reCAPTCHA is able to do this by providing kind of three primary advantages. And the first really is our install base. So we're installed across 5 million sites. We've been operating there for over a decade. So the team and the platform have been through a lot to ensure it's hardened and robust against a wide variety of attacks over a long period of time. The second is that it is a frictionless platform. We really try and put you, our customers, and developers in control of the experience to keep your users safe in the best way you see fit. And natively, reCAPTCHA will not provide any friction or interrupt your user experience in any way. And finally, it's adaptive. So we use our risk-based bot algorithms to apply this continuous machine learning across all the threats we've observed from checking the other 5 million sites. And this really enables us to provide a uniquely robust platform that is responsible for protecting a vast array of sites across the internet and able to detect the wide variety of different attacks that you might see from different adversaries over time. And as you've probably heard in many GCP security talks, we really believe here at defense in depth and creating layers of security protection. And reCAPTCHA is no different. So the layers really start at the WAF integration layer, where we'll stop scraping, we'll stop bot attacks, we'll stop kind of high volume abuse. If things pass through there, we'll stop it at the client layer. And these are our web and mobile-based integrations that will be used to detect synthetic accounts, credential stuffing, ATOs. And then finally, when the user is ready to move to payments, we'll have a payment layer integration as well, able to detect payment fraud and abuse. And altogether, what this provides is a series of these layers that different types of fraudsters will have to pass through to abuse your site, while providing a frictionless experience for legitimate users. And with that, I'd like to kind of go over each of these layers a bit more in depth in order to provide more context exactly how we provide these protections at each of these layers of your application stack. And to start out with, we'll talk about the WAF layer and our integration with Cloud Armor. And what this enables you to do, if you're already a Cloud Armor customer, is to immediately deploy reCAPTCHA through Cloud Armor. So you can have Cloud Armor serve the reCAPTCHA snippet, score, and challenge in order to detect fraud that passes through the networking layer to your client layer without doing additional installations. You'll also be able to pass that data back to Cloud Armor in order to inform the Cloud Armor's behavior. If you're not already a Cloud Armor customer, it's a great reason to adopt reCAPTCHA and Cloud Armor together in order to provide this integrated defense across the network as well as client layer to keep your web applications safe. The second layer I'd like to go over is account protection. And it really starts at the client layer where we can detect attacks across web and mobile integrations. As I mentioned, reCAPTCHA can now be installed across the web, Android, iOS via native SDKs, or even have detections on IoT devices across a wide variety of non-Android iOS devices. So we can provide that complete protection across all endpoints, that complete visibility to you and your security team. We also provide an account defense solution that allows us to anonymously track the behavior of accounts and detect things like hijacking, ATOs, synthetic accounts through changes in behavior observed over multiple logins. And finally, we provide reason codes that are able to provide more context to you and your security team about what we think is happening beyond the risk of the interaction that can hopefully help inform the type of response necessary to either enable a customer or keep your site safe. And with that, I'll go over some of the native responses offered by reCAPTCHA Enterprise in order to keep your business safe. The first is multi-factor authentication, and we offer email and SMS-based verifications built right into the reCAPTCHA Enterprise platform. The second we'll offer is our password leak detection. So you're able to leverage one of the largest stores of passwords and usernames available on the internet in order to detect pre-compromised accounts and alert your security teams and even your users that their accounts may be at high risk and that you can take additional protective protective measures for them. And finally, we offer the challenge that, of course, reCAPTCHA is well known for. So in the cases that you observe high friction attacks or potentially automated attacks, the challenge can be used as a way to add a little bit of additional friction to automation in order to provide that additional layer of protection for your site. And the third layer on payment protection, I'll turn it over to my co-speaker Raj to cover. So Raj, please take it from here.
Thanks, Sai. For those of you who've been in payments for a while, you know that ultimately, if there's an account takeover or there's any sort of abuse on an account, it's ultimately being done to monetize the stolen credentials. And what that means is that most businesses have to build the right tools to be able to identify whether a transaction is good or bad, an individual is good or bad, and that means they end up rejecting a lot of good users. And so payments and fraud is not so much about fraud alone. It's a lot about how do you detect who is good and making sure you get the highest conversion rates. And this is really a very hard problem if you think about it, because the risk reward trade-off that comes with that is basically looking at the lifetime value of a customer, is split between three different entities in the mix: the merchants that have to make the sale and make the money, the financial institutions that have to process the payment, and then the consumer that has to come to the site and buy. And each one of them have a different goal or a different idea of what they want to achieve. For the merchants, they end up turning away 10 to 20% of their sales because they're trying to stop fraud. And they're trying to do that because if they let too much fraud in, financial institutions like the payment gateways or the acquirers tend to either turn them off or put them under penalties, like charges that are much higher than what they're used to. And so they end up turning away good people. When you look at the financial institutions as a whole, they end up rejecting 4 to 5% of sales, a lot of which is really good because one, they want to obviously reduce the fraud, but they also want to protect their consumers, because if the consumers feel like they're letting in particular transactions on their cards, they feel like there isn't enough security on it, and therefore they start using other financial instruments, or they say, I will check out with PayPal, or I'm going to check out with a wallet, but I'm not going to use my credit card in the mix. And then you finally have the consumers that not only are they dealing with the fraud issue, but they're also looking at speed, convenience, and ease of use. And they abandon checkout to a large extent because of some of these things that are lacking. For example, if I love to use a specific payment instrument at checkout and you don't offer that to me, like, I love using Square Pay, well, then I'm not going to check out with you. Or, if you get me to the point of checkout and there's too many items in my cart that is driving a shipping fee, I might turn it away. Or I have to type in a lot of my fields that require me to know everything and remember it, I might drop off at the checkout cart. And so you end up, when you look at these three different entities, the merchants, the financial institutions, and the consumers in the mix, you end up losing hundreds of billions of dollars in sales on an annual basis simply because somebody either thinks they're fraudsters or they feel like it wasn't convenient at the point of checkout. And to solve this, as I mentioned, the problem is super hard. The only way you can really solve this is if you can commit to finding a way to be able to guarantee to the retailer that you would give them an increase in conversion rate and protect them from the downside of fraud in the mix. And to be able to do that, you need a really robust and complete solution. And the combination here of reCAPTCHA and Signified provides a super, super good option to do that. First, at the reCAPTCHA level, you already have what you need to be able to collect device and network data. This helps you in the account takeovers. This helps you in screen scraping. This helps you in anything related to abuse. You then add in the transactional level data. This is not just pre-transaction, but you're getting things like SKU level data, shipping level data. What is the transactional level of information that are coming, which is a payment instrument and so forth. And then you finally have the third component that every business needs to operate, which is the process and the workflow that's on top of that. It allows businesses to be able to say, what happens in the case of an exception? What happens if I need to write something that is policy based on top of it? How do I process a payment that comes in as a dispute? All of these different elements that are required to run a business, and the combination of reCAPTCHA and Signified, which we'll talk through here in a second, offers you that complete solution. So when you look at the combination, there's effectively three components that are really important to make a very strong decision of good and bad at the point of checkout. The first is everything that happens on page. This is pre-transaction. You've got behavioral data. You've got information about the device. You've got information about how they behave on a page. reCAPTCHA collects that today. Signified collects that data today. The second is the transactional level data. This is everything that's happening at checkout. You've got payment information, you've got shipping information, you've got email, you've got phone, SKU level. reCAPTCHA collects that today. Signified collects that information today. The combination then becomes the value add of taking the reCAPTCHA score that manages fraud today in terms of a fraud score and combining that with the Signified guarantee to be able to say, here is a more powerful decision that takes in the data of all of the 5 million sites that are looked at on a daily basis with reCAPTCHA, and then all of the billions of transactions that flow through Signified on a regular basis, and being able to produce a decision that not only says, hey, we think it's good, but also protects you from the downside and provides that guarantee on top of it. The last element in that mix, that post-transaction, is super important to do this because ultimately to provide a high-value decision, you need some form of a feedback loop. And the feedback loop in our business, in the payments business, is effectively the chargeback. When something goes wrong, you know that you have to pay it back, and it's usually the consumer that's protected in the mix. And therefore, that feedback loop, because you get a guarantee, and each one of those guarantees are backed with being paid back financially, it helps the model build out a good decision loop to provide the highest quality decision. To be able to set this up is fairly easy. Today with reCAPTCHA, if you haven't already installed reCAPTCHA, it's a quick install for reCAPTCHA, and then you can opt in to be able to immediately get a fraud score from a payment score from reCAPTCHA. And this gives you immediate visibility into fraud. The add-on element that gives you peace of mind and complete comfort on top of that is Signified Guaranteed Payments, where you get a guaranteed approval rate increase, where we analyze your business and look at where you are today in terms of conversion and offer an increase in that conversion, while also completely taking away the liability of chargebacks from you. So you don't have to be able to fight or dispute or manage any of that, completely get paid back. And to do that is a fairly simple process as well. You have to install the Signified app, and that is available today through the GCP marketplace. So with that, it brings us to the close of the presentation. In summary, if you look at the business today, the value that you get with GCP, the reCAPTCHA solution and Signified, is the ability to be able to manage your fraud end to end. It's one complete solution, all the way from account takeovers, screen scraping, abuse, to the payment side of the business. And the ultimate intent that we want to provide you is the ability to convert more in your business, a higher conversion rate for your business, a guarantee for that, plus a downside protection for any liability that comes with it. With that, I just want to say thank you and look forward to seeing you all next year.